Hi, first grade. I miss you guys. I hope everyone had a great Easter and that you enjoyed your long weekend with no schoolwork. I know I did. I was able to rest and just kind of hang out. But we're going to jump right back into our phonics for this week. We only have one video to do this week because it's a shorter week from Easter. Okay, so in our last video, we talked about how you can look at a part or a pattern of a word to read that word. And you can make new words by putting a letter or a letter cluster, which just means more than one letter, before that part or pattern. I know that sounds a little tricky, but let's look at it, okay? So these are the words that we looked at last week. So we said in this column we had dad, had, bad, mad, and glad. Okay, and we talked about how all of these have that AD pattern on the end, right? So I wrote it at the top of my column because all of these have AD. So now let's look over here. I'm trying to figure out how to hold this. That works. Okay. So over here we have sip, hip, lip, tip, and trip. And I underlined my pattern, and all of these have that IP pattern, right? And so let's look at these really quickly. So do you guys see how, like, in sip, there's only one letter before that IP, that pattern? Okay, that would just be how we can make a new word adding one letter. But if we wanted to make a new word with a letter cluster, look, trip has that TR together that make the tr. So that's a letter cluster. So that's just what I mean by that. And let's keep going. Let's look at this column. We have cap, what goes on your head. We have sap, tap, rap, and clap. And just like in my other columns, I underline my pattern. And these all have an AP pattern. You can hear that app at the end of all of these words. So it makes them kind of rhyme, right? Clap and sap, they rhyme. Okay? And these were our new words last week, right? We had net, met, pet, let, and get. Okay? And we talked about how all of these words have an ET at the end. They all have that ET pattern. So I have them underlined and I put my pattern up at the top. Okay? And so we have a couple of new words to look at today. So we are going to look at, put that down. We have bag. It's important that you don't forget your book bag at school. We have tag. I love to play tag with my friends at recess. I miss playing tag with my friends at recess. We have rag. It's okay that you spilled your milk. Just get a rag and clean it up. We have sag. I can't think of really how to use sag in a sentence, but it's when something kind of starts to hang down, go low, sag. And we have flag. Every morning, Dr. McDaniel says the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag, right? So what we know is that these words all are going to have the same pattern on the end. So if we look at these, all of these have an AG on the end, right? So they all have that ag pattern. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to underline my ending and then put that pattern up at the top. So maybe you guys can see what I mean a little better. Okay, so we have bag, ag. We have tag, rag, sag, and flag. So let's look at that. I underline my endings, ag, in all of them, right? And let's think, what's another word that we could use that we could add a letter or a letter cluster to this pattern to make a new word? We could do, gag. Like if you smell something stinky, it might make you gag. that would just be an example of adding one letter to this ending to make a new word. Okay? So we are going to do, for our activity, the exact same thing we did last week. I'm going to send you some magnetic letters. I don't want you to use all of them. I just want you to use A, B, G, R, S, T, and W. I'm going to write those down because that's a lot of letters to remember. And I want you to use those letters to make and read 2 or 3 words with that AG pattern. So I'm going to write down those letters that I want you to use. I want you to use A, B, G, R, S, T, and W. So these are the letters I want you to use with your magnetic letters to make 2 or 3 words with that A-G, that ag pattern at the end, okay? So I'm not going to, I'll show you. I'll give you one example. I wasn't going to tell you any answers, but I'll give you one. So, like, imagine I have all of these letters, and I want to make a new word that was not on my list with that AG pattern. So I know that this is all going to be online, so you could type in or click. Okay, let's see. I know I'm going to have AG at the end. What if I put W at the beginning and made it W-A-G? Let's look at that. What if I put those letters together? Ag, right? Wag, like when a dog is really happy, it'll wag its tail, go side to side. So that's all I want you to do, is use these letters to make 2 or 3 new AG words. And if you can't think of a new word, that's okay. You can just practice making the ones that we talked about. But that's all you guys are going to have to do this week. And I love you and I miss you. And I hope you all stay safe. And I will talk to you next week.